battle over the Suez was a conflict over a water passageway between the British and the German-led Ottoman army. The Suez Canal was a vital passageway between Britain and their colonies around the Indian and the Western Pacific Oceans. The Ottomans were relying on a surprise attack at a railway junction along the canal, but the British were tipped off by an aerial recon mission who saw the approaching Ottoman army. The British had time to prepare and were reinforced by Indian and Australian forces. The Ottoman army, led by Jamal Pasha, was beat back and retreated to Beersheba on February 3rd. This was the only Ottoman attack on the canal, and the defeat ruined the reputation of Jamal. This was a major turning point in the war as it showed the weakness of the Ottoman army.
Use it.
The Battle of Tarsus was a battle between the Bolshevik forces and the White Army during the Russian Civil War. The battle happened because White Army forces under the lead of Adam Krasnov went to the city of Tarsus and laid siege to it in the fall of 1918. This pushed back Red Army forces into the surrounding areas of the bank. The local leaders of the Bolsheviks wanted help from Moscow, but was told to stand firm. The city was saved by a guy named Joseph Stalin. He disobeyed the order from Moscow by recalling his forces from Caucasus and told his comrades to keep fighting. The forces from Caucasus were able to defeat the White Army forces from the rear. Then there was a temporary takeover of the city by Anton Deacon's forces, which occurred in 1919. Major Ewan Cameron Bruce of the British Army and had volunteered to command a British tank mission assisting the White Army forces. He was awarded the Distinguished Service Order for his bravery during the 1919 battle for single-handedly storming and capturing the fortified city of Tarsus in June. Under heavy shell fire and a single tank, this led to the successful capture of over 40,000 prisoners. After this, the Red Army under Stalin and Volchas, this time aided by supplies that had recently arrived from Moscow, had an all-out assault toward the city, retook the city in January 1920. While the White Army retreated to the Crimean Peninsula as a result of the assault. After the battle, the city was renamed Stalingrad in 1925 to honor Stalin for his actions in the battle. 17 years later, the city would become a battlefield again. This time, it was for the decisive battle of Eastern Front in World War II.
Тебя ранили. Я тебе помогу.
The Battle of Monte Grappa was the first war of the Italian Piave between the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Both the parties fought over Monte Grappa for the space it provided. In 1917, the Austrians sent the Italians into all-out retreat. The chief of the Italians was Luigi Cadorna. On the other hand, with the German support, the Austrians failed to take over the mountaintop of Monte Grappa. The success for the Italians, Commander Diaz allowed for much more freedom, allowing improved defense over the summit. The Battle of Monte Grappa played a very important role because it stopped the Austrians from further invading Italians, the city of Vienna.
We have taken Objective Edward.
Verdun Heights visualized the opening barrage of the longest and bloodiest battles of World War I. Erich von Falkenrath, a German general, believed that France was the deciding battlefield of the war. Following this belief, the German army were pitted in an uphill battle to reach Fort Verdun. The Kaiser's army followed a mantra of attrition. The battle plan was to slowly tear down the French army in a long and drawn-out battle. This was accomplished through the war's most devastating use of artillery. 70% of all deaths within the battle were caused by the bombardment. In the map, the bombardment is shown in the raging fires and decimated landscape. The mountainous terrain of Verdun is represented by the steep inclines that are nearly impossible to traverse. The map captures the February 25th French holding of the right bank of the Meuse River and the village de Meuse, which is represented by smaller houses in the map. The French moved all troops to this area, knowing the war could very well hinge on this battle. Despite a German force of 500,000, the French defenses held the village Durmau. The first phase of the massive battle was the French.